I haven't done one of these. These are cool.
All right, so I think we've already started.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. My name is Massimo Cardo. You're here on Mixin with Mas, and we got Destiny Vergara. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you to have you along. One of the main reasons I wanted to have you here is because I've seen your influence in school. I think you're a woman of great leadership and power and potential. Working with student council, you were a captain on multiple teams, as I noticed. And your initiative in class and also amongst like social groups has been very influential. I mean, like you have a lot of power.
Thanks.
I see amongst friends, and you utilize it well. I mean, not to your personal advantage, but I see how you communicate with your elders, your leaders, you respect seniority, but also you know how to get your point across respectfully.
Yeah, thank you. That's something I worked on. That took a lot of years to like figure out and to master. You know, you don't want to be the bossy girl, the one that everyone looks at and it's like, oh, she's trying too hard. And it took a while to like get to that point where I was like, okay, like I can take charge too. And that's something that I still work on every day.
Yeah. So one of the things I noticed is that like most times you see a position of leadership or influence, it's usually a guy, right? Or like most times you predict, like when you hear about a doctor or a lawyer, you think of a guy, or a principal, you think of a guy. In our case, we had Miss Rodriguez Tabone.
Yeah, super great principal.
Exactly. Yeah, she's great at communicating. So when you were in Queens Metro on student council, what was it like going back and forth with her?
She was very inspiring in the sense that she didn't take anyone else's criticism or anyone else's BS to heart. She always listened and then responded with polite and forward feedback. And she got the job done. And I loved talking to her because she knew exactly what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, even if I didn't have the right words. And we always bounced ideas back and forth. And I was really like grateful that she was our principal because she started the same year we did. So we kind of grew in the school together.
Exactly, yeah.
And we were able to try new things. And she was awesome. In my opinion, she was great. 10 out of 10.
So what motivated you to like join student council?
So I kind of did student council in middle school. It wasn't as serious or intense. It was just something, you know, it's on the side. It was fun.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I made like Dress for Success Day, and that was like probably the most impact we made in the school. But
were kids like wearing suits to school or something like that?
Yeah, people were dressing up as what they wanted to be for like as a career.
Got it.
So everyone would go as like a professional athlete. Okay. I dressed up in my scrubs as I walked into my middle school. But so when I got to high school, I was like, okay, I really want to try this out again because I knew that student council and student government was huge in middle school for me. So I think I was the only freshman that tried out in ninth grade for student council. And it was kind of weird at first because there were a whole bunch of older kids and I didn't know exactly how to use my voice. But I'm really grateful that I started early because it taught me how to advocate. And by the time I got to sophomore, junior, senior year, I was a lot more experienced when it came to speaking up about things and getting the job done. And that's really why I decided to join early, so that by the time I did get to senior year and I knew that I was going to have to become a leader, I already knew how everything worked. And I'm really grateful that I did start freshman year.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I was like, it's kind of intimidating when you come as a younger student and there's already old people there. Not older, I mean like.
Yeah, I always try to be that like voice for the freshmen because you don't want to be judged by everyone else, especially freshman year. There's this stigma around student council where like, oh my God, they're the nerds. They're the ones that care so much in the school. But when you think about it, you could flip that into a positive thing because you have control over what you want your high school experience to be.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's why I enjoyed it so much. So when I had to recruit for the younger kids, I made sure that they didn't listen to what other people were saying. And if they want to do it, they should just do it. Yeah.
So what kind of influence did you have, or what were some of your most remarkable changes in student council as president, right?
Yeah. So like the things that I got done. Always planning for events was really important. I enjoy doing like the dances and stuff because we had dances and events like that pretty rare. So when we did have it, we wanted to have not even just the nicest decorations, but the highest school energy. That's really important. One of my favorite ones was the coming out day and the month of Pride because that really showed you how like accepting our school community is.
Yeah.
That was a really nice one because everyone was able to like get along. Even if you had beef, we all came to like this common ground, and everyone was showing pride for the people who needed that support. So I always loved that event. And some things that I got done on student council, one of my biggest projects was making sure that we had some good food in school, because right from freshman year when I started eating the cafeteria lunch, I was like, this is a little off. This is a little off. I didn't have this in middle school, but when we did some research about it, we realized that our menu was the alternative menu, which is like the vegetarian, vegan, kind of healthiest option you can get. And I surveyed the students. A lot of them didn't like it. So I had to kind of have meetings with the principals, and not just our principals, the principals of Mel's too, since we all share the kitchen.
Gotcha.
I had to go to SLT meetings, PTA meetings, and this did not take 1 year. It took probably 2.5 years.
Wow.
But by the end of the whole speaking with the dietitians, we finally came to a better menu, which is still technically alternative, but we were able to fix the meals, change some things that we thought was better. And by the time I left senior year, people enjoyed it.
Exactly. In the morning, we had a fruit bar. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Pineapple, all the fresh fruits. We never had that in the beginning. I remember the lunch. We brought back the original the chicken thigh.
Yeah. Do you remember the mozzarella sticks? We never had them, and then towards
I haven't
senior
seen those
year,
since middle school.
Yeah,
or like kindergarten.
Senior year, they were giving us mozzarella sticks, and I was like, "Damn, we're about to leave," and we didn't even have our whole senior year.
That's good though, because I mean, there's like a metaphor for that. It's like someone who's powerful is who's gonna build a tree that they're not gonna sit in the shade of. You know, that's a really good.
That's
move
a really good metaphor.
Because kids are gonna come back to Metro and they're gonna have these options that they don't even understand the fight that you put in for it, the sweat, the effort.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't realize that there was so much going into this project. Like when we would send out surveys, people were like, oh my gosh, why are we still talking about the food? But behind the scenes, like that was something that I really cared about. And I'm really happy that we got it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So am I. I mean, like I was having the mush, and I feel like they call it a healthier option, but it's not.
It's not.
Because I feel like everything was anti-meat.
Yeah. And the problem is like when you have food like that and kids are not going to eat it, they're going to turn to other options like the school store, the vending machines.
Cookies for lunch. Who wants to eat cookies for lunch? I'd rather supply my students or my kids corn, beef, and stuff like that for lunch.
The chicken thigh.
The chicken thigh was so good. I was trading. I was bartering. Yeah. I was giving kids, I was doing their homework to give me their chicken because you only have like, what was it, like 2 servings at lunch?
Yeah, like 2 servings. And the second one you had to pay for.
Exactly. Yeah, that sucked. So, I mean, all you could get was just extra spoonfuls of corn and the coleslaw on the side.
I know,
I mean, that wasn't going to
with the chocolate milk.
Exactly.
It's crazy to think that we graduated high school because I still feel like we got to go eat this lunch.
We ended on a weird note, I got to say, though, with Metro.
For sure.
In general, a lot of kids, especially across the country, across the world, it just stopped on a random Friday.
I mean, I don't know. For me, it feels like it's still March. It's March 325. I don't know.
Yeah, someone said it was like the longest summer ever because it was really just an extended break. And I mean, I don't know when we're going to go back to normalcy, but I can't wait for the time where I could just return to school, talk to teachers. I mean, I'm a type of kid that learns in an environment where I can ask a question every 3 seconds. Because like for me, I'm a visual learner as well. So if someone has a whiteboard and they're going to explain it, it's a lot easier than watching someone on my monitor just use a click and a mouse to try to explain something or just lecture. Because I fall asleep, I go on my phone.
Yeah, right? Yeah, for sure. Like I feel like I'm learning better when I can relate to a teacher, relate to the students. We can be there in person, bounce ideas off each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was the way we were taught since we were like 5. So this huge change definitely was a shock to us, the school system.
With Zoom and all that. Yeah. So how was your influence with the principal on Zoom? So you're communicating still on a weekly basis, and you said it might have been a daily basis at that point, right? Once we transitioned?
Yeah. So when we left school for the first, like the beginning, when everything was just like crazy, we weren't able to talk as much. But then when we got into a pattern, I would say around April, I wanted to make it a monthly thing, not even monthly, weekly thing, where the student council would get on a Zoom with the principal and we would talk to her about everything we need to do. Because at that point, we didn't have months in advance to plan for things. We had to think of how are we going to distribute cap and gowns? How are we going to try and have a graduation? Ceremonies that were supposed to be in person, we had to think, how are we going to transition this online? Another big thing was advocating for the students. Those first couple weeks was really complicated for teachers and students. There was a lot of feedback and people were relying on us to tell the teachers about it. We would tell her, and she would distribute that information to all the teachers.
Yeah, that's true.
So we would talk to her on a weekly basis, but I would be in communication with her and some other people. We would be emailing back and forth, probably almost every day, every other day at least.
So you were like the student ambassador, basically. Like all of our feedback, our wants and needs were represented by you. I mean, this is a role you often don't see in a lot of schools. I mean, that's definitely initiative and leadership right there. And were there any hard points, like difficulties? I understand what you're saying, like in the beginning, the first couple weeks. The biggest focus of the DOE and just schools in general, public schooling, was to make sure that we were held accountable in doing our work. So they gave us an insane workload. It was breaking our backs, right? I remember that. Nuts. It was like day after day I was spending more than 10 hours.
Exactly. I was having headaches staring at the computer. It was crazy.
And then what rules did she inform you about, or did you inform her about, with turning on cameras, making it mandatory?
Yeah, so when you talk about the workload, that was one of the biggest feedbacks that we got from the students. So I told her that having every class period every day with all the teachers, that's fine. But then when you have to do the classwork and then the homework, it just started adding up. So after I told her about that, the teachers started to work on a schedule where, I don't know if you noticed, but we would have like some classes on some days.
Exactly.
And then our English class would assign us work on a Tuesday.
Alternating.
It would be alternating.
Got it.
And that's what my middle school was doing because my siblings are there. They caught on to it a little bit after.
Where did they go?
They go to PS 128.
Okay.
That's where I went from K through 8.
Got
but they were also doing that same rotation. And it works. It worked better than it was before when we were doing everything the same day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one feedback that we had to give to her, and she like figured it out with the teachers, and we met in the middle. The DOE wanted us to like get as much done as possible, and they were putting a lot of stress on the teachers to make sure that the students would get their credits in time. And for seniors, that was extremely like, it was confusing because we didn't know how our year was going to end.
Exactly.
So she had to tell us about the whole NX credit, and we had to try and explain that in English to all of the students so they can understand. So that's how we kind of talked about the academic parts. But in terms of policy with classes, some teachers were doing things differently than others. Like you would have a teacher that would say you have to have your camera on or you have to have your mic on. And some teachers would be like, okay, you don't have to if you don't want to. And that was extremely confusing for us because we're like, one teacher saying it's not, one teacher saying we have to. Do we have to do our hair and makeup to show up on Zoom, or can I just like not have to deal with that? So I was talking to her about how some kids were actually getting penalized for like having to go to detention for not having their camera on or having laggy Wi-Fi or having crappy computers. And then she had to do some research, and then we ultimately came to the decision that no teacher can force your camera on. No teacher can force your...
Is that law?
I don't know if it's law, but I'm pretty sure that the DOE at one point said that they don't have to. Only because the teachers in the school doesn't know your home circumstance.
Exactly, yeah.
They don't know where you are, who you're with.
Who's in the background, how crowded it is.
Exactly. Yeah. So they can't really force you to do that. A teacher can have their preference, but at the time, some of those preferences were being like, some of the teachers' powers were being abused. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And some people also weren't using their voices to say, okay, keep your camera on. And that would lead to the class kind of just not doing their work. We always wanted to find that middle ground. We weren't trying to advocate for kids to like have their camera off and sleep through classes, but we didn't want kids to feel ashamed when they would have to turn their camera on or their mic on, and then their like siblings would be yelling in the background and they would get in trouble for it.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that's something we can't control.
A lot of them, I remember on Zoom myself when we had mandated classes with the camera on. A lot of kids were in bunk beds at sometimes doing the work on their bed, and teachers would make comments. And making comments about their background.
They'll walk away from the camera for like a second, and then they'll be like, "Oh, look what's in the back."
That happened.
Yeah, that
definitely happened. In front of
happened.
Students. I mean, this is a whole class watching that happen. It was definitely embarrassing. Thankfully, I had a setup where I can have a computer and I can have a clean background. But for kids who don't have that same opportunity, or even like you were saying, Wi-Fi, some people would log out or they would just get booted, right? Because that happens. Sometimes it reboots or you just lose connection, so it has to recharge and all that, and then they would get points off their participation for the day. Yeah. Because they weren't in class for a moment.
The Wi-Fi thing can be a struggle too if you have so many people in your house using a Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Like for example, my mom would have to do homework, right? Like the working from home and on her computer. And then my siblings would also have to work on their computer. And all of us at the same Wi-Fi, something would crash.
Yeah, exactly.
And I used to be so scared because like if it crashed, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I was like, oh my gosh, like my grade is going to go down.
Exactly,
and that's something we never had to worry about when we were in person. So why are we doing it now?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's really about just like rolling with the punches and stuff like that. For me, I had 6 people in my household, all using Wi-Fi at the same time, streaming Zoom. Depends. Both my parents were on work calls. All my siblings were on Zooms as well as myself. Yeah. And then you have another million things running at the same time. It's a lot to take at once, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to just bear all that weight. And I mean, even just, not just the Wi-Fi itself. I mean, besides the workload, also the assignments we were doing, the testing. We had testing pretty much every single day. I understand you want to keep yourself in track, right?
Yeah.
You want to monitor how you're doing, but having a test every single day during quarantine.
Every day. And you're already struggling to retain the information in class. Try studying on your own in your dark room.
Exactly. Yeah.
While you have headache. It was a lot. It was definitely that like first month or two when we were starting to transition. I don't know if it's just me, but I know a lot of students who were like not even, they didn't have the motivation anymore. Like, okay, we have senioritis. That's a thing, no matter whether you're in person or not. But when you were going through a pandemic and have all of these negative energies happening around you, you're just going to feel less motivated. You're not going to want to try as hard. Exactly. And that was like my worst fear for our school, our senior class, because once everyone starts to like, all right, like just breeze by, you like lose hope for the future. You want your senior year to be amazing, and then this is what we were served. So my biggest thing was trying to turn that back into a positive and try and lift people back up from the crappy low.
Yeah, on the stance of morale, I understand what you're saying, because like it's not conducive for good mental health.
Yeah.
If you have testing every day, if you're just worried about understanding your criteria, even if, because sometimes the teachers were having a hard time sending the message, and then it's even harder for us to receive it, you know? So if there's that barrier between, we're trying to work it out, we don't understand. So I understand why a teacher would want us to have our cameras on, you know, because that way you get to see, it's a visual learning. And they also can tell if you're intact, right? Because a lot of kids, and I mean myself, I had lectures online, and I'm just sleeping through the whole thing, or I'm in the car, or I'm rock climbing.
I'll try to keep my eyes open.
This one time I was rock climbing, I have an AirPod in my ear, and I'm like,
really?
Yeah, like, are you here? I'm like, yeah. And
there was definitely a situation where like I had to go for like a doctor's appointment, but I couldn't miss this lecture, so I would have an AirPod in, and then be in the car like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of distracting also when you're on the move, but that's one of the good things about being online or fully remote.
Yeah.
I feel like after this ends, we're going to have a system where you can choose to still be fully remote if you want to.
I mean, it works for some people. Some people enjoy to have the independence of doing things on their own.
Yeah.
Personally, I would still like to be in person because I like to see other people.
Yeah, the social aspect.
Yeah, but some people did enjoy it for some reason. I didn't understand how they were able to do it, but they did it.
Here's the thing, when it's nicer outside, you have a lot more liberty. So that way you can go do things and still be in class. So let's say I was at the park listening to a lecture, I brought my laptop. I'm just sitting on a park bench, but I'm outside. When you're in your room for so long, it feels like you get cabin fever.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be inside anymore. I get tired of the incandescent lights, like the yellow, just like staring at me.
Yeah.
I feel like my brain is being squeezed.
Yeah.
You know, it's
and
just disgusting.
The thing that I didn't realize how important it is until we didn't have it was a daily routine. Because I enjoyed a change of scenery. I was such a busy person. I was going everywhere, different places. Yeah. And then once I couldn't move anymore and I had to stay in my room, I was like, wow, I really took that for granted. Like just having to walk to school or drive to school. That was something we dreaded before, but we would kill to have like a commute to school back in March or April. But we didn't have that. That was
like right after that happened. I feel like even now I'm in between courses. So I'm like in between jobs as well. I'm figuring out how to manage my schedule with free time. It's almost like I'm an entrepreneur now. Not me per se, but I'm just saying like you have a free schedule and you have to build it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Like for right now, I don't have any courses, so I have to monitor my time. I have to get up at a certain time every day. Because if I don't, my sleeping schedule, I'm gonna start waking up or go to bed at 4 a.m.
I need to fix my sleep schedule.
Recycling. Yeah, exactly. It happens, you know? Yeah. It's normal, but part of having a schedule, going to school every day, I know it sucked. Like school started at 8 a.m. I was up by 6 every morning.
Yeah.
That's 2 hours advance, half an hour for commute. Luckily, right? Now it's gonna be an hour if I go to college in the city. But just having that routine every day, seeing people, communicating, doing stuff after school, you know, like leisurely activities, going for lunch, having food, walking. The exercise is the biggest thing.
The exercising. Like we did. I didn't realize how much walking
Mm-hmm.
like took a toll on me. When you
Yeah.
can't walk anymore, you realize, oh my gosh, like I'm becoming lazy.
Yeah.
And that's something I never like to do.
Yep.
I'm a very fast-paced person.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really I never had a chance to be still
Mm-hmm.
and relax. And then when I was not doing anything, just school online, I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
not it.
Pretty funny how the brain contradicts itself. It's like when we're really busy, we like being busy, and then at a certain point, you're like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I need a break.
Yeah.
And then you get a break, and you get a break for so long with no in betweens that you're like, oh my god, when is this break gonna end? You know?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
It's gonna come, but
Hopefully soon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's just been prolonged for this entire time. How have you been able to keep track of yourself in terms of fitness? Because I know you do karate and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I'm not gonna lie, from the very beginning when we started to have the pandemic and stuff, it was challenging because I've never had to do a karate class from Zoom. That was weird because
Mhm.
especially in karate, you have to like have physical
Exactly.
contact
Yeah.
with each
And
other.
you spar, right?
But at the beginning we had to like my dojo had to figure out new ways
Mhm.
of teaching kids. So we started to hop on the Zoom classes.
Mhm.
I'm fortunate enough to have like a little dojo in my garage. So it's like a mat and then some like punching bags and stuff. But some kids had to do it from their rooms, their tiny rooms.
Or the kitchen, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is how I decided to manage doing classes from my own house. I am also the Puerto Rican Federation because I am on the Puerto Rican team. They would make it a mission to like have all of their athletes hop on a Zoom um, once every other week,
Mhm.
and we didn't start from the very beginning doing karate until probably at the end of the summer because they knew that all of us were not moving as much as we should,
Mhm.
and they started off with just let's do basic exercise like
Got it.
burpees and jumping jacks and just the circuit training
Mhm.
just to get ourselves back into shape. And that's how I decided to follow some stretching stuff, especially because of our gym classes. They would always be like, oh, do like a yoga video.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I didn't realize how important that was until I wasn't stretching and I was like, oh, this is weird. But then
Mhm.
when I started to stretch again and I was like, this feels more normal.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really hard transition, especially because all of our classes and our tournaments got canceled.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out a new way of doing it.
I have a lot of questions about Puerto Rico, or I mean the Puerto Rican team. But
Mhm.
before you start, how did you get into karate, or who introduced you to it? What makes you continue or be motivated to get better at this sport?
Okay, so my origin story starts off with me. I was probably around like 4 years old. I watched a lot of action movies with my parents, and I was raised on like a lot of Bruce Lee.
Mm.
And from what I remember, because I can't really remember the story, but I'm always told that I used to say, "Oh, I could do that. Like that kind of looks easy.
Mhm.
I could fight, like no problem." And then my dad was like, "No, that's like an actual sport. Like
Mhm.
that's a martial arts that people like learn."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And then he brought me to a dojo in Astoria where I took like an intro class, and I really enjoyed it. And then I learned that my dad did karate when he was probably like younger to like preteen.
Got it.
He studied somewhere in Flushing with a teacher. His name was Toyotomi Miyazaki, and he's from Japan. He was a big deal. He started like our dojo, and then when I joined, after joining, my mom, her father also did karate under the same instructor,
Wow.
but years before my dad. So in this weird way, we kind of had this
Yeah, that's pretty
lineage
cool.
that we never intended to happen, but it just worked out that way.
Mhm.
And then my sensei was the student of Miyazaki.
Got it.
So that's how I started. I was 4. I was just doing it for fun. It was nothing too serious. And then once I got to like probably 5 or 6 years old, I competed in one tournament. It's ironic because there's two types of things you could do in competition. There's kata, which is more forms, and there's kumite, which is fighting. And I hated fighting. I was so scared to get hit. From the very beginning of karate, I was like, fighting, not for me.
What's the difference between the forms and the fighting?
So forms is like a pattern.
Mhm.
It's a routine, kind of choreographed. It's supposed to mimic what moves you would use when you're in an actual fight.
So it's not a one-on-one type thing?
It's not.
Oh, they're
It's
just
solo.
testing out. I got it. I've seen that before. So
Yeah.
like, it's like I saw one kid do it. We did it at camp. We had like an instructor of karate
Mhm.
come along. This was at I forgot the camp name. But basically, like you start with a kick and then you move over. Like
Yeah,
one move leads to the next, right?
it's like I can compare it to like a dance where you
Mhm.
have like moves that you already know you're gonna have to do.
Mhm.
There are forms and there are different names to it and
Got it.
different purposes.
Okay.
Have you ever seen The Karate Kid?
Yeah, of course.
When the sensei is teaching him how to do all of these movements.
Yeah.
Um,
Sand the deck.
yeah. So sanding is more of an exercise, but like
Paint
those
the fence.
types of movements, they have purpose when you're in a fight.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly.
So that's kata.
Mhm.
Fighting is point sparring. You have another opponent, and there's different places you can hit, different techniques you can use,
Mhm.
and whoever gets the most points wins. So when I was younger, I didn't really like fighting, but then once I got older, preteen-ish, it got a little bit more serious. I
Mhm.
started to compete all over the country. I started my way slowly, but then they started throwing me into adult trainings. I was training with older kids. I was one of the smallest always, and being with older people really pushed me to work harder.
Mhm.
And then from there, I tried out for different teams, travels internationally, and then it picked up. And now I'm 18 years old on the Puerto Rican team. I compete in fighting. The thing I hated when I was 4.
Yeah.
I also do kata, but the fighting is where I was able to get a lot of my results in terms of like international competition.
Got it.
Um, and yeah, it kind of increased exponentially when I got to like preteen.
Mhm.
We were just going at fast paced.
So how'd you get involved with the Puerto Rican team? Did you reach out to them, or did they have like an opening that you tried out for?
So I had some friends who were on the Puerto Rican team, and I kind of reached out. They reached out, and I of course had to try out first.
Mhm.
So I went over there. I fought in one of their competitions. They have a different way of selecting people. Every country has a different way. Sometimes you have to do competitions that'll qualify you there. Sometimes they recruit you. It depends on the country.
Mhm.
But after I fought, they decided to give me a chance, and I had to travel. And the thing with Puerto Rico is they will support me. They have my back all the way. I just
Mhm.
need to be that person who gives results.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did. I joined, I believe I was 14.
Wow.
And then I went to Pan Am's in Argentina. Then the year after was Brazil. And then the year after was Ecuador. And Ecuador was last year. And that they're usually in the summers. So there's a whole bunch of different competitions that they asked me to do.
Mhm.
And I want to do. I compete, I travel, I practice for those competitions. Those are the big ones. And from there, they just trusted me. Recently, I've been funded by the Olympic committee of Puerto
Got it.
Rico, and now that I'm an adult, I'm gonna have to compete in bigger competitions, and hopefully soon, because all of the competitions that I had this year, they were postponed or canceled.
Mhm.
So now it's gonna get more serious, and I'm really excited for that.
That's dope. I'm excited as well. I
Yeah.
mean, do they broadcast these fights?
Yeah, so sometimes they're live streamed, depends on it. They're recorded, sometimes put on YouTube. It
Got it.
depends, but
Pretty cool.
never. I don't believe they're on TV, at least from where we are here.
So how many countries total do you think you've been to, and states as well?
Countries is a little difficult to think. It's not as many as states. States I've been a lot. I would say, I don't know, like maybe 15 at least. 20. I've definitely
is
driven through a lot of them
For competition?
for competition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So almost everywhere on the East Coast.
That's
And
dope.
then West Coast, I've never been to California. I really want to go to California, but I've been to Nevada. For Las Vegas, there's a really big competition. I've been there like 8 times. That was
Mhm.
one of the big ones. And then there was one in Reno, Texas, Chicago, Ohio, Indiana. I can name a whole bunch.
Mhm.
But states, I was going to a lot. Countries, it's Bolivia, Argentina, Chile, Brazil,
Puerto Rico
Ecuador,
counts, right?
Puerto Rico. Kind of. They're like
Some other land.
they're
Yeah,
like a US, but they're also their own
Exactly.
kind of place.
I got you.
Where else have I been? I went to Bulgaria. That was the
Wow.
only place that I was able to go in Europe so
Yeah.
far. So that was fun.
That's dope.
And then layovers too. I technically been in the Russian airport once. That
Yeah.
was really funny.
Technically, you've been there, right?
Yeah, I went to Germany for a layover. That was cool.
I've had that before too. I
Yeah.
tell people I've been to Puerto Rico, but I never have. It was
Just
a
the
layover
airport.
to DR.
Yeah, DR.
I've been to Dallas before, but it was really a layover to get to Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. I mean, fighting in these different countries. How would you say the competition varies depending on, I mean, you've only fought in Europe once.
Hmm.
How would you say individually each country is different?
I feel like it's not really based on the country, it's based on the level of competition.
Got it.
Because you can have a competition in New York
Mhm.
and it will be somewhat more of a local.
Mhm.
But then the further up you get, the rules change a little bit. Once you're at like the world championship, which is like the highest of the highest,
Mhm.
you're gonna have more strict rules that are going to make sure like
Like prerequisites or like
not
during the fight, like
prerequisites
rules in the fight?
rules. They're called WKF rules. That's World Karate Federation rules.
Oh wow.
Here when you're in New York, they have their own specific New York rules.
Yeah.
The WKF rules are more in terms of the equipment that you have to wear, the types of techniques that you can and can't do. The way the tournament is structured, you can always tell a difference. When I went to Chile for Worlds, the Junior Worlds, um, they are very strict when it comes to starting on time. Having specific coaches in with you, you have to go through a whole bunch of certification.
What do you mean
There's
the coaches?
the coaches have to take courses to make sure that they're qualified.
Oh, like verified.
Yeah,
Got it.
and it's not even like you have your own coach. It's like every country has their designated coach or coaches.
So let's say you wanted to bring your sensei with you. Can he come on the
Mhm.
side as like your personal coach? How does it work?
My sensei would. It depends on the country you're from.
Mm-hmm.
My coaches are the coaches that the senseis from Puerto Rico that are affiliated with the team and help
Got it.
us compete. But senseis, they pick a country, they'll represent their country, they'll go through the certification, and it's very strict with
Mhm.
who's allowed to be there, who's not allowed to be there. Also, like weighing in. Here in New York, like for the competitions, when you're 5 years old, 6 years old, all the way to like 17. They don't do weight categories. It's more belt and age and rank.
Got it.
But when you're 18 or even those ages in a international competition,
Mhm.
they will weigh you. They'll make sure that you're in your category and then you're able to compete. So
Got it, yeah.
weigh-ins is a huge
Yeah.
part of competition as an athlete, especially when you're doing big international competitions.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know you're not at the point yet. Well, I mean you're an adult now.
Mhm.
So do they start testing for drugs or
Yeah.
have they been doing it as a teen or as an adolescent? I would assume no.
It depends on the competition because I have a really close friend who is on the Puerto Rican team, who is on the Puerto Rican team,
Mhm.
and she qualified for the Junior Olympics in Argentina. She competed in the Junior Olympics, I believe a year or two ago, and at the qualifier after she qualified, they did drug test.
Oh wow.
So if it's a big competition, like they'll do it at Central America, South American tournaments, like Pan Am's. They will test you. I think it can be random at times, or if you do take get a high rank or a
Mhm.
medal in your division and you're moving on to something bigger, they want to make sure that you're clean before you move on.
Got it. Yeah. So I meant to ask this before, but I'm assuming the leagues, is it blended or is it females and females, males and males?
Females and females, males
Got
and
it.
males. So I've never fought a guy in competition. I mean, once when I was like 4, but
Mhm.
we were little. But no, it's more females and then weight categories and belts, ages, and then the males have the same thing.
What about in the dojo when you spar? Is it like a female only gym
No,
for karate? It's mixed, right?
for the dojo, I will spar with guys and girls.
Yeah.
So usually my height, my rank, my belts, we're all
Mhm.
besties. I grew up with them, but my dojo we don't separate. I could fight a guy. I actually
pretty
was
cool.
there yesterday and I fought a guy.
You whooped
So
someone?
no, we were training, so we just do drills back
Got
and
it.
forth. But yeah.
I remember briefly I was on the blended team for wrestling
Hmm.
in Queens Metro High School, and I remember you sparring with someone, and I saw you slam him, and I was like, God.
I don't remember that, but it
I
probably
remember-
did happen.
I forget what technique we were practicing, but it's kind of like you have to let them.
Probably like
You have to
doubles
practice
because that was pretty much almost the only thing I knew how to do
I
good.
think it was a nice double.
Yeah.
It was. You picked him up, you scooped him, and I remember Nick Sotier was doing it. Day
Oh
after
my
day.
gosh, yeah.
I was trying to learn it, and then he's just like, "Look at Destiny, look at her form." And I watch you, and you're holding some boy. I forget who it was.
Probably someone small because I was always the smallest.
Maybe the same weight though. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
know you're saying that you just pounded him, and then Coach Stern was like, "All right, that's what you want to do."
The funny thing is we could look like we're pounding each other
Yeah.
and I'll like take someone down, but then they're gonna have to do it back to me right
Exactly,
after.
yeah.
So
that's how you learn the form.
yeah.
That might be one of the hardest things about learning on Zoom. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your father has experience, and you said he helps you coach and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, so my dad, he has experience in karate,
mhm,
and when I joined, he decided to help coach not just me but other kids too.
got it.
So I'm very fortunate to have a really involved parents.
Yeah, that's dope. So does he spar with you at home when you're practicing, or do you spar with other students still?
Yeah, he used to spar with me when I was younger, but when I got older, we don't fight. But when I did have to do drills on my own, during quarantine and the pandemic, he would come out sometimes and be like my punching bag. I do have a very still normal looking punching bag that's not a person, but
Hmm.
sometimes I would also get my siblings there. They're small, but
Yeah.
at least they would be a body to hit.
Yeah, it's fun to hit little kids,
Yeah,
especially when they're your siblings, you
yeah, they would be like, "Oh, what am I doing here?" I'm like, "I just need you to stand there, and I'm
know?
not gonna hurt you. Just stay right there."
Yeah,
Yeah, that
that's
would be
really cool though.
funny. I would
Wait,
never do that with them, like if we weren't in a pandemic.
of course, yeah. I mean, I would if I was in
Desperate
karate.
times.
I would use any opportunity to hit my sister. Now, so would you guys put like the mats around you, or are you saying like when you hit them, it would just be like the form? So you're gonna do a high kick?
Yeah. So I have good control. So
Hmm.
whenever I would have to kick my sister in the face, I would never actually hit her. Like her face would be here, and I would
It's really
close.
close.
I can stop. I can make sure that I don't hit them.
Gotcha.
But in terms of like actual equipment when we fight, we have gloves, we have shin pads that cover our feet, our toes,
Hmm.
and like half of our leg. We have gis, which are the nice silky robes that
Hmm.
people say they look like. And then sometimes when you're in a big competition, you have like body protector that goes on the inside, but you can't really see it.
Got it.
And mouthpieces.
So how did the point scoring work? I've never understood because I watched Karate Kid and all I saw was like a kick to the side. It's like, ha, 1 point. And it didn't
Karate
make
Kid,
sense to me.
it depends on the league you're in.
Like, is that? Have you ever seen that move?
Of course,
The
I've
flying
tried
cobra?
it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I've never seen anyone able to do that.
But everyone has emulated it. Even kids who don't
Yeah,
even know
I think
karate
it's more
is,
of a
right?
Hollywood thing.
It is. It is.
But for me, at least in my type of karate, the points vary. It's like when you punch to the face, you're not really hitting, especially if you're younger, like little kids. They don't want you hitting in the face, so it's more of a controlled punch that reaches about 10 centimeters away from the face. And then you have to pull back. One of the main things that they do in competition is making sure that you're focused
Hmm.
and you have some type of control.
Exactly.
So it
if
has to be fast,
I
but
see.
also controlled with spirit.
So if you're sloppy and you deck someone, let's say you
Mhm.
knock another girl out, are you getting ejected right after that?
Not ejected necessarily, it depends on the hit, but you're definitely gonna get penalized for it. So it depends on the age, but you're definitely gonna get penalized for it.
So you don't make contact except for like kicks?
We do make contact. The face is somewhere where we don't hit.
I understand. Yeah.
But now that I'm an adult, adults can touch, skin
Oh, wow.
touch, or a little stronger than a
So
skin
what's
touch.
where do you draw the line between how hard you could hit someone in the face?
I mean, you can like I've been hit in the face before. It can be like this, you know. But if you're punching and then they're just like
so
knocked
are you allowed
out,
to follow through? No, right? It
No.
has to be. You have to pull back.
one of the
immediately?
main things is whenever you do a technique, you have to pull it back.
Got it.
So the face, when you punch the face, that's 1 point. When you punch the body, you actually have to make contact and hit, and the stronger the better. They're never gonna penalize you for hitting the body too hard.
Okay,
I
so
mean-
you can like kick. They basically want you to kick through their leg.
There's
basically?
situations where you can get penalized for hitting the stomach too hard with a kick,
Mm,
if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, like for the most part, your mission is to try and hit the body as hard as possible. You can kick the body, that's 2 points. You can kick the head, not the face, but the head, that's 3 points. That's a really fun one. You can take people down, but there's specific takedowns that you can and can't do. Like
Mhm.
you can't do a judo throw over the shoulder or anything like that, but you can sweep someone. Those when you punch when they're on the ground, that's 3 points. You cannot hit like the legs or below the belt. I know how. Have you seen UFC and stuff?
Yeah.
When they like kick the shin, try and like ruin their knee.
Mhm.
That not.
Yeah, it's dirty.
That's not what we do here
Gotcha.
in my type of karate.
Mhm.
But at least for point sparring, that's not gonna get you anywhere.
Gotcha. So in the dojo, are there like, because I've seen in sports you have like leaders and stuff like that, and you usually appoint someone captain to make
Mhm.
sure that their peers are also being held accountable, and to also like just give them incentive to grow. Are there captains inside a dojo?
So, the rankings, like the
Mhm.
belt ranks, have a big influence in like your leadership in the
Got
dojo.
it, got it.
So there's not necessarily captains like, okay, this person is the captain of our dojo of our team, But if you're a black belt, if you're a brown belt and you're older and higher, more experienced than someone who's younger, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of your responsibility to help other people out
Exactly.
and make sure that everyone knows what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
and provide assistance when people need it. So when I became a black belt, when I tested, there's a test, a physical test,
Mm-hmm.
there's an essay. My sensei really wanted us to
An
make
essay.
sure,
Wow.
yeah, he really wanted us to make sure that we knew exactly what we were doing, what we were getting instruction to, and the responsibilities that we were about to take on. And one of the parts of the test and the essay is like, what would you do as a black belt as your responsibility? And one of the main answers that you should give is provide guidance, because not only the sensei is someone who helps the younger kids, you're also part of that dojo, and you also have a responsibility of making sure that younger, less experienced people
Mm-hmm.
know what they're doing and you can help. So that was one of the big things.
Do you want to show us your
Yeah,
black
I
belt? I know you
can show
brought
you the
along.
black belt.
That's dope.
Actually, this is my
Hey.
second black belt. The first one I had got too small because I tested when I was 11.
So
I was 9.
how many ranks are there in black belts? Because I know once you go up there, up the ladder, when you reach black, can you hit black again? It's
Yeah.
like, so you're a 6-time black belt or a 4-time, 2-time?
You once you're a black belt, typically you wait a couple years before testing again when you're a black belt. Nobody likes someone who just rushes through their belts for no reason. But I am a second degree black belt. So that means that I tested for the first time for my first degree when I was 9. And then I tested again, I believe, when I was like 15. I think I was 16 actually.
Mhm.
It took a while. I should have tested earlier, but you could test again, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree.
Is there a cap?
No cap, but typically you shouldn't pass your sensei. It's disrespectful. Like it depends, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
but
So wait, who helps your sensei increase his belt level? And how do you know someone has the credentials of a belt level? Because like I would say in the Boy Scouts, what I'm familiar with, people could just buy patches and
yeah,
just say they're
you can buy a black belt online and say
exactly
you're a
right.
black
Yeah,
belt, but the point is to earn it.
exactly. Of course.
Sensei usually tests people. He knows when you're ready. And there's a lot you have to do for the test. Like I said, there's an essay where you provide like what made you start karate, why you wanted to be a black belt, what does a black belt mean to you. Then there is the physical exam where you have to go to the dojo and it's like an hour or 2 long test that consists of all your forms from white belt to black belt. You just fighting, showing that you're not scared. This is not a point sparring situation. This is
Yeah,
more
yeah.
of how you learn to use your skills
And
in
form,
in a
right.
in a fight.
Gotcha.
And then there's a board breaking part that has less to do with breaking the board, but more to show that you have like no fear to do it, because a wood board can be very intimidating,
Mhm.
but the point is to get your fear out of the way and just hit it. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
because the wood board, no one's gonna punch like a piece of lumber when when you're out in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but it's supposed to represent like a person, a situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's that, and there's also this thing called bunkai, which is where you show how the movements in a kata are displayed in a real fight. So it's like a choreograph situation where like you punch me and then I'll do this move to show you how we do it in a kata and how I would apply it in a real fight.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I'm looking at this right now. What did those words say?
So on this side is
You want to show the camera? Real
I mean, I can't read Japanese, but on this side I know this is my organization for my karate. This is like my school where we come from. And then on this side is my name in Japanese.
Oh wow, that's dope.
And as you can see, the belt's kind of worn out. Whenever you get like these white spots, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Everyone wants their belt to look worn out because that means that you're doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the hands of a construction worker. You know what I mean? Like it's a reward in itself when you have calluses built up because it shows like wear and tear. you know? Yeah. It's proof. So what is that symbol at the bottom? Is that like, do you guys have like a logo for your dojo or like a symbol that you guys carry?
We do have a logo. I should have brought it. This is just the brand.
Got it.
But it's from Japan. It's called Takedo.
Mm.
But our symbol is, how would I describe it? It kind of looks like a flower-ish. It's supposed to represent the inside of a papaya. But it came from, remember Sensei Miyazaki that I told you from the very beginning? He has a family crest in Japan. And that's what that symbol is. And my dojo, we all wear that patch. And you'll see people all over the world who are from our dojo.
Mhm.
We have dojos a couple different places. People who are
Wow.
black belts and decide to become senseis, they'll branch out and spread our message, and we all have the same patch, and that's kind of like
Mhm.
our family unity, kind of.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, like, this is so interesting to me. It's so fascinating because I've never been involved in something like that. I've been in a bunch of sports, and usually, like, when you have like captains, that's what I'm familiar with. And you have like a leadership structure. It's an incentive to like to grow. But now that you see, it's not just you win a patch or a star or a number. You have to earn each rank you go up, and it's not really seniority or superiority. It's by demonstration, right?
Yeah.
It's by guidance, and you're expected to hold a certain amount of accountability, right?
Yeah.
When you are a leader in that circumstance. So you're a second degree black belt. I was really thinking about how does a sensei himself become a sensei, but also if he wants to increase his belt level, who does that for him? Does he go to like the sensei of senseis? Is there like a
Yeah.
guy on the mountaintop?
Mountaintop, someone who just promotes everyone.
Exactly.
How do senseis increase their level? That's a good question. I should ask my sensei when I see him again. But I believe there's one point in someone's life where they'll stop worrying about their level and just helping other people.
Of course, yeah.
So I believe my sensei, if I'm not mistaken, he could be like a 5th or 6th degree at least. But I can't remember the last time he tested. He's been testing other kids and increasing other people's
And I
levels.
can assume he doesn't care about his own anymore. It's about increasing those around him.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
It's very humbling, but how does one become a sensei? Like I said, when you're a black belt, you're expected to help other people, and sometimes the job calls you. Like I know a lot of good athletes, a lot of good people who are great at competition, but senseiing is not their thing. They can't help other people as much as they are internally like athletes, not the best athletes or instructors, but some people just decide that their calling is to help others, and they'll get a job or volunteer at the dojo, and then it becomes something bigger over time.
That's pretty cool. So like, how does it work financially for a sensei to be a sensei? Is this like a side job that he has, or like leisure activity, a hobby, or would it be, if it's someone's main source of income, how would they bring in money to sustain?
It varies. Everyone's different. I know senseis who do it as a side job. My sensei, his name is Kyle Young. He owns a dojo where we all like pay monthly dues.
Yeah.
We contribute to specific classes and trainings, and then that's how he makes his income and distributes it to other senseis within the dojo.
Got it.
But it's different. Some senseis could do it as a side hobby. Some senseis do it as a side job. It depends.
Yeah, because you really just want to stay on your feet as well. I mean, he has to put food on the table.
Exactly.
I'm sure he has a family, bills, stuff like that.
Yep.
In the other senseis in the dojo as well. So, what are the levels of those senseis? I know there's a sensei and there's senpai. No.
Yes. So
yes, I got it right.
Yeah, you got it. You've been watching a lot of Dwight on The Office, right?
Notice me, senpai.
Yeah. So a senpai is someone who's studied for a long time, and they're kind of like
that's the definition.
The leader. No, I can't give you the exact definition, but from what I know, a senpai is like a leader within the dojo who's studied there for a while and someone that other people look up to. So at least in the beginning of my class, before the pandemic, when we went to, and there would be like huge people, like there would be so many people in class. There would be probably like 3 people who were studying for way longer, and they're one of the top people in the dojo in terms of age and hierarchy. They will stand behind the sensei to represent that they're the senpai. It just really depends on the classes and the people you're around. If you're a black belt in a beginner's class with a whole bunch of white belts and yellow belts, they're probably going to look at you as if you're a senpai, because you're kind of like their role model, their leader, but they're also not their instructor. Like there's levels to it.
Yeah, it's a good initiative. I know what you're saying though. Like even if you're a black belt, you still want to help. But let's say you're green and yellow is the beginning belt. Is that right?
Yeah.
You still want to give them guidance because they're in the steps that you passed already. Like they're going along your path. Yeah. That's pretty good. So you said that's a gi, right? The
gi is the uniform you wear.
Uniform. Do you have it with you?
I don't have the gi.
That's fine. But you did bring the.
I brought
the Team Puerto Rico
jacket.
That is heat. I remember when you wore this at school. I was
did
like,
wear it at school. I like to wear this at school.
I would have wore that. If I had one of those, I'd wear it till the threads fell out.
Here, I'll show you guys. So this right here is the Puerto Rican emblem for the Olympics. So you'll see a lot of Olympic athletes walking around with this patch.
Hold it up, yeah.
Here.
Dope.
on the back it says Puerto Rico. So I like to flex this. At
That's
the
pretty cool.
cafeteria line.
This is a nice color. I mean, this is good fabric.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that I would wear at a competition before I warm up or after when I need to take pictures or get on the podium. This is a nice one. I also brought
one of the medals.
Medal.
That's awesome.
This is from Ecuador, the last Pan Ams I was able to go to, and I took out a silver. And
what's on the other side of that?
This
That's pretty cool.
Just a design. Go with, but on this side, this is my favorite side.
You want to say it to the mic?
Oh, okay.
Make sure they hear you.
This is my favorite side. This is the WKF kind of emblem, which represents all the continents, and WKF is World Karate Federation, and then here it says Pan American Karate Federation, Guayaquil, 2019. Guayaquil is the place in Ecuador where I competed, and this competition holds a lot of significance too because I'm half Ecuadorian as well. So my family was actually able to come to the competition.
No way.
The ones that live in Ecuador, and they rarely ever get to see me compete. I don't think they've ever got to see me compete, but my grandfather was there. My grandmother flew out with, did she fly? I forgot. But I have aunts out there, and this was a really, really important competition for me.
That's dope.
Because I was able to win this in front of them.
Exactly. Especially in front of your grandparents. It just feels so different because it's like an honor you're bestowing upon them. You know?
I know, yeah.
Right?
That was a really significant trip for me.
All your hard work, they're like, you know what? I'm glad they're doing what they're doing in America. Because a lot of times it's like they always... other countries, I feel like the motherland for myself as well. It's like when you come back and you visit, they're like, oh, the Americans.
The Americans. Well,
so
my grandparents actually live out here, but my great grandmother, I saw her, I believe in January and December for New Year's and Christmas. I went out there as a family vacation, and she was there. And I told her that I was possibly going to come back in August for this competition. And she was very sick. She had Alzheimer's and dementia. Yeah, so we already knew that she was really old. And I told her, like, okay, we're going to come back. Just wait for us. And she ended up passing away in March on my birthday.
Oh, my God.
It's okay. It hurt, but the fact that I was able to go back, and she wasn't there at the competition, but I did visit her tombstone.
I guess throughout the entire thing, it was like in her namesake, you know, thinking about her a lot.
Yeah, the whole family was pretty emotional about it. But I'm just really happy that I was able to go twice in the year, and the second time I went and I got this medal, I really felt a different type of energy compared to all the other tournaments because my family was there, and it just held more significance.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And like, even as you go along in life, you might have bigger medals with different names on it that mean more. But I mean, like, it's the sentimental aspect to it. It carries so much, just like emotionally, like with your family involved, your grandmother, your grandparents, you know.
Yeah, I just wish this was gold, but it's okay. It still counts.
It's good enough. It's about the history behind it, you know.
Yeah.
So being in the dojo, did you ever have to deal with like similar problems as you would on a volleyball team? Because I know you played volleyball. You guys got to the quarterfinals several times in high school. This is for what league again? It's for the volleyball team. Yeah. Where I believe we were in the level APSAO. APSAL, got it. So like I understand, like, and I've seen.
B. I don't remember.
I got you. So in school, it's like when you're on a team, there's always beef. No one's gonna get along. You're not supposed to be best friends. You're just supposed to be teammates, and your goal is to win. Yeah. Right? But as a leader in those predicaments, because you were a captain on the volleyball team, and also you said there was transitioning captains on softball. Yeah, on softball there were different captains every week, but when it came to going to meetings and getting information, and since I was a senior, I did have to do that role. Got it. And also on wrestling, I witnessed myself that you were one of the captains. Wrestling, I was one of the captains. The first time I filled a captain position was sophomore year, and then junior year and senior year. That's great. So and that was a big group too. It's a lot harder to manage. Group. Yeah, because like a lot of people aren't going to get along. You see factions forming. Like this group hangs out. Exactly. Yeah, it's natural. We see it in the lunchroom. You see it in the classroom. But how did you avoid, or at least confront situations where certain people weren't getting along? It was affecting the group mentality. The goal was changing, and it was really turning into like a kind of me thing. Not for you. Yeah. But so in the dojo, it's more individual competition. We all train together, but we all compete on our own. I grew up with those people. They're like my family.
we never really had, I never at least had beef with anyone at the dojo. But in school it can be a little bit different because we don't see each other all the
Mm-hmm.
time. We'll probably only interact in the practices if we don't have any classes together. Sometimes we're not even from the same school because you have Mel's and then you have Metro, and we're all on the same team. For volleyball, we never really had any beef. It's just all the teams. You're probably gonna have people who don't get along as besties,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. A team, we don't all have to be besties. We don't have to be best friends, but we have to get the job done, and we have to work together to
Exactly.
be the best version of the Metro team.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a team that people don't like each other, but
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna happen. So one of my things as a captain, one of my missions was to try and get people to get along and probably interact outside of practice.
Smart.
So
Smart.
I would love going out during the season, after the season, keeping in contact, getting into a group,
Mm-hmm.
going to for a bite, doing something fun outside of
Yeah, like weekends after
outside of
school.
practice.
Got it.
Because we always see each other in practice, and it can become repetitive and
Mm-hmm.
annoying. But once you hang out with them outside and we go to a fun beach day,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you actually get to learn more about the person, not just the athlete.
Yeah.
And then you can see that we have a lot more in common than we do different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where actual friendships and relationships form. And I think that's a huge team bonding experience when you're able to do something that's not directly related to your sport. You
100%.
learn a lot more about each other.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good positive outlook you have because I mean, like you said, you're gonna have more in common than you do differently with these other athletes. And I feel like especially when you're in a competitive sphere and everyone's just trying to get that win,
Mm-hmm.
or you're doing whatever you can to win by any means necessary. I can imagine myself like just playing basketball stuff like that. And we had our own teams in CYO. We get really heated at practice,
Mm-hmm.
but then when we went to the games together, it was like we were going to war with one
Yeah.
another. It's like that same thing that could tear you apart could actually help build each other up because you're realizing that like this same competitive aspect can be used to the main goal. Like you're
Yeah.
saying, just trying to get that win. But
Everyone wants to be on the top, but you have to humble yourself and realize
Mhm.
that we're a team. The
Yeah.
only person that's going to be on the top is all of us together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you start to step behind and look at the bigger picture.
Good point.
Mhm.
As you were getting into this stuff, how did you find yourself in a role? I mean, in the beginning, you're not going to assume the highest role. You have to earn it, you know? So
Mhm.
coming into volleyball, what was your role in the beginning?
So the first year of volleyball, I joined. I was on the JV team,
Mhm.
and that's where everyone kind of just learned how to do their own how to play volleyball. And then once I got to varsity, because I already knew how to play volleyball in middle school. So
Mhm.
once I got to varsity, I already knew how a team worked and what we needed to do. I listened to the seniors. It's usually the seniors that always provide guidance.
Mhm.
It wasn't until my senior year where I realized like, okay, like I need to step up and be the example that I've been watching all the other girls be my entire life.
Mhm.
And the thing about it is, I was really heavy on the fact that you can be named captain, but just because you are the captain of the team doesn't mean that you're the only one that provides guidance.
Mhm.
Even if you're not captain, you have to embody a captain role, especially as a senior.
Mhm.
You want to be someone that they look forward to and they ask questions
Exactly,
if
yeah.
they have them. So that was with volleyball. Wrestling was a little different because when I joined, I was one of I think like two girls. It was just me and another
Yeah,
girl
the ratio
freshman
is
year,
insane. Yeah.
and our team was small.
Mhm.
And then once I was wrestling boys from freshman and sophomore year, and sophomore year, I decided to like recruit, try and
Mhm.
get other girls to do it because I didn't want to be alone, and I thought it would be super badass if girls would be on a boys wrestling team.
Yeah, that
Um,
is. Hell yeah.
yeah, so we started to recruit, and I talked to my coach about possibly turning co-ed blended. And then that's exactly what we did. So junior and senior year, we had a good amount of female wrestlers, and that was something that I was really proud of. That I was able to, start the initiative of who cares if you're not a boy.
Yeah. How'd
we
you get? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We could still wrestle too.
Yeah, of
Girls can still
course.
wrestle.
So how'd you get the ball rolling with that? Like when this was Coach Stern, right?
Yeah.
So when you approached him, did he say this was something you have to sign off? You have to ask PSAL or the principal?
He loved the idea.
Mhm.
Even when I was the girl on the boys team, he
Mhm.
never treated me any different. He loved the fact that I was that female,
Mhm.
doing it, not really caring. So then when I told him, oh my gosh, like we should get more girls, he was like, yeah, for sure. And then when I did find them, he was the one that was also on board with the fact of going blended, and he was totally up for it, and he was excited about it. And then we started like the transition. He looked into the PSAL rules of changing. We met all the criteria, the weight categories, the people, the amount of people, and then from there we won the championship in junior year. The year that we went blended for the first time, we worked our asses off, and then we won the chip for our school, which was so incredibly it was such a fun day.
Yeah. Did you guys get to follow through the whole season last year, or no? You got cut off, right?
Last year we did follow through the whole season.
Okay.
We went to the championship for the second year in a row, and we weren't able to pull out the championship last year. But
I mean, you made it that far.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
We were ranked, I think, one of the top of the whole division because of our win last year.
Is
the
it
year
citywide?
before. This is citywide.
So 5 boroughs.
5 boroughs.
Was it A League? A blended?
I believe so.
Wow.
I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure. So yeah, we did get there, and we weren't able to pull out the win. But the fact that we got to the championship 2 years in a row was a huge accomplishment. But wrestling ended the second week of February, I want to say, and that was like right before. That was like a month before everything finished, like all of school. The pandemic started, so yeah, that season was able to finish.
Not bad. I mean, at least you get to close that experience, because I know softball you didn't get to start, right?
Softball we started.
I mean, you didn't get to follow through.
We didn't get to finish.
Like official start. Yeah.
Our first game that we played, that didn't even count. It was like a scrimmage. We went to Townsend Harris. That was a fun one too, because we usually travel by bus, and because I had a car and some other people had a car, we were able to drive there, and we just felt so ready and pumped and excited. And then after that first game, that's when my coach was like, oh, that exact day, she was like, okay, so they're closing everything, PSAL is done. And we were so crushed.
Like devastated. I can imagine, especially your senior season.
Oh my gosh. Softball is one of my favorites because it's just the people on that team are just, they radiate a different type of energy.
Really?
I love softball. I've been playing it since I was younger. I don't like, it's not like the main sport that I do, but I love to do it. It's one of the fun ones for me. And the fact that it got cut so short was really tragic, because I was doing all of these sports since freshman year. So my goal was always to finish doing all of those sports.
Yeah.
But we didn't get there.
That's pretty interesting, because like in volleyball, it's a different aspect, especially because, all right, so you have volleyball, karate, softball, and wrestling. Jesus Christ, 4 teams in 1 year. So if you look at all of these, they're so different in their own aspect. 2 of them are a single sport, right? So you have to be composed, especially karate. They preach discipline and respect.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to be like baseball, or if you get a home run, like, you can't fling a bat in
No.
But you can in softball.
Yeah.
You know? You could slide, you get rowdy. It's
a lot of
different.
the karate disciplines that I learned they transferred really well to wrestling.
Got it.
And
I could definitely tell. I could see, like, through form, just the dutifulness, like going through every day, you know, even if you don't want to be in practice, you don't want to get whatever it's called, ringworm from the mat.
Ringworm, yeah. You have to cut weight too, make sure that you're in super good condition.
Yeah, a lot of people, like, they do it unhealthily though.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that before.
Yeah, where they like faint a day before, like during the day, or they don't eat for 3 days. Once I did, the longest I fasted to cut weight was just like one night. So I didn't eat dinner, and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I've done some intense weight cuts too.
How long? Like 2 days, a day?
I've never fasted in terms of okay, so probably the longest I did was if I had weigh-ins at this time, I would probably stop eating the day before ish or the morning. It depends on how much weight I need to lose. Usually that last day isn't for, at least in my case, it's not for cutting, but it's just maintaining the fact that I'm exactly there.
Exactly, yeah.
The goal is always to be below, but weight cut is different for everyone. I just hate when people do it. And I'm not gonna lie, like there were times where I cut weight unhealthy, but I learned from it, and I said, okay, I'm not gonna do that again.
Those are experiences.
I'm not gonna do that again. That doesn't make you feel good.
So was it like just drinking water or no water at all? I
The
remember
diet.
kids were spitting just to get anything
Okay,
out.
so like right when you're about to weigh in, you're like right on the line, you gotta spit. When you get on the scale, take off your socks.
But how much weight does it change if you're just spitting?
Probably like
saliva?
0.1.
I know.
And those things count. Take off your socks.
Spit, I would say like 0.00. one mix.
Something like that, but you like to think in your head that
Exactly,
it makes
yeah.
a big difference. Take off your socks. When you get on the scale, hold your breath. Like
Cut your
there's
toenails.
yeah, cut your nails if you can cut your hair.
Exactly. Well, they make you cut your nails, right? They can't
Yeah.
have a certain length.
For wrestling, you can't have a certain length because grabbing. I've been scratched so many
Exactly,
times,
yeah.
and we all have stubs. So like how we scratching each other.
Exactly.
But yeah, so you have to cut your nails.
Wow. But cutting weight, I've seen boys that didn't eat. Like one guy tried to cut weight, and he wasn't disciplined throughout the process. He had like 2 weeks to prepare, and the last 3 days he was like, "Oh my god, I gotta cut."
Yeah.
And he doesn't play in New York City, but he was telling me that he cut like 3 pounds in like a night or like 2 nights, something like that.
Yeah, I've done that.
And I was like, "Whoa, that's a lot of weight." I know
That's
like,
a lot of weight. Usually those last couple pounds, people like to do water weight. So
yeah,
that's
that makes
sweating.
sense. So they do cardio with the
Epsom
bag
salt
on.
bath. Cardio
Epsom
with the
salt.
bag on.
And
That
then you
one.
Wring it out. It's like a fucking
Cardio with the sauna suit on.
That's crazy.
It's kind of gross, but you got to do what you got to do.
Mhm.
But you have to make sure that you're also not taking too much of a toll on your body because yeah, you could cut weight, but how are you really gonna feel when you fight
in
How-
competition. Yeah, that's
when
what
you're
it's about.
actually wrestling? Because you weigh in that morning of. So then when you're wrestling a couple hours later, you might feel dead. You have to make sure you have to eat. So I try to advise people to start earlier than later.
One thing. Yeah, sorry if you wanna.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
So my first competition, I only did one, and then I sprained my ankle, and I was like,
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not the quitter type. I just feel like I wasn't invested in that as it wasn't something else. So I was like, you know what? This was kind of a side thing I was trying out.
Yeah.
And I realized it wasn't for me. But I realized it was a lot of fun because you could respect someone that puts their body on the line. And we don't know what our bodies are capable of.
Yeah.
There's so much potential. I mean, people run ultra marathons where they run 250 miles in like a week.
Yeah, and it's crazy to
without
see
stopping.
some of the injuries that these people are powering through all
It's
season.
sustaining, yeah, right?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I had a messed up knee. I injured my knee in wrestling, but it was always kind of messed up from karate and stuff.
Yeah.
But some people, they hate taking breaks. Like as an athlete, you're just like, oh my gosh, like can we like rush the process already? But you really have to listen to your body, especially in
course.
wrestling, because you're getting
gotta take your time.
slammed. You got to
Yeah.
work a lot. It's a lot of strength.
And it's a lot of joint work. Your ankles, your hips, your knees, especially.
The burns, the rug burns.
Exactly. Your feet are just boiling at some points. I don't know. It's pretty dope. I like that. I respect that because like at the same time, you have to give your body rest. You have to go in like minute points, right? Like one by one. You got to work towards it. And especially when you love the sport so much, you don't want to wait for competition. You want it to be here already.
Yeah.
Like I have a friend who's like, he's a runner and he can't wait for the marathon. He's like, oh my God, I just want to
to get it done already. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And he wants to run. He loves running. At the same time, it's like 2 days before he knows that he can't run at all. And it increases his nerves because like he's basically dialing his body down to prepare so the tissue doesn't inflame and all that stuff. So he's calming down and he's taking a mandatory rest. But in that rest, he feels like he's not doing enough, because he loves the sport so much that it's making him anxious that he's not prepared enough because he's just used to work,
Yeah, I'm not a runner, so I don't know how the running works, but I definitely can relate to the fact that right before competition, you don't want to go too extreme. Of course, you want to like do workouts or exercise or something that's going to get you there, but that day before competition is more mental preparation because you could be extremely physically fit, but if you're scared, that's going to take a toll on your performance.
Yeah.
So the day before, I usually like to, just think, get inside my head and just they always tell me not to swim or do anything extreme the day before because your muscles need to be completely ready. So yeah, I definitely get the not doing too much before competition.
Do you have like a meal right after weigh-in? So I know some people, they eat before weigh-ins. I know it's ill-advised because they say don't eat until you weigh in and then you have an allowance. I mean, well, you have the allowance when you step on the scale. That's another question I had, but we'll get to that in a second. So when you weigh in, let's say like you want to make sure you're a pound under or you're just not over the line, right? And then you eat. For what I did, I had 2 heroes. I had a bacon, egg, and cheese, and then I had a sausage, egg,
Oh my
egg and
gosh.
cheese. Because I had eaten in like 12 hours or 16 hours. I was starving, and I piled it in, and I got on the mat, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
I felt nauseous.
So for wrestling, I never had like a designated meal, but whenever I would weigh in, I would usually you don't eat breakfast that day of weigh in. So after that, I would eat probably like a bacon, egg, and cheese, small, not too much. Fruits are good. I would try to eat fruits, but I'm allergic. So
So which ones?
I'm allergic to fruits. I'm allergic to bananas, apples.
No.
Yeah, I know. And I love
They're so
bananas
good,
and apples.
though. Yeah.
I love them, but they make me itchy. So
Is it like bad, like throat closes type thing?
no, it's more of like hives and an
Okay.
itchy face, itchy mouth.
That's
But
unfortunate. Those are great fruits.
yeah, they always tell you like athletes like eat fruits after you weigh in. It has hydration. I'm
And
just
you're
like
like,
I
here
have
I am.
allergies.
Yeah.
But
It's unfortunate.
But yeah, afterwards I would eat. I like. This is horrible, but sugar is good. Like
I mean, it's a
I
carb. It's a
always,
fast digesting carb.
yeah, but it depends on the sugar. Like right before
That's true.
competition or after, I would always like have a bag of Skittles. Skittles would be like my go to
That's really popular.
for sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, there's weightlifters, powerlifters. What they do is they have when they're working out, they carry gushers with them,
Oh my
or like
gosh.
these little snacks that have more BCAAs.
See, I didn't even know that I was doing something right.
You were.
I was over here thinking like, oh wow, I should stop eating
I mean,
Skittles.
do you know Marshawn Lynch who eats Skittles
Yeah.
while he plays football?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. He's retired now, but like those guys, they eat sugar because it's a fast digesting carb.
Yeah.
And basically, it ramps you up. It'll get your body like just shooting on all cylinders at that point.
All
and what
right.
these guys do in the gym, you'll see these huge dudes on steroids, giant backs.
Eating a Sour Patch.
Yeah, he's like, "Yo, pass the gummies," and you see them eating the little rainbows. It's
yeah,
hilarious.
I know. I didn't even know about that.
You see the
but
strip hanging out of his mouth, and he's like trying to get it in like spaghetti, like a dog.
I'm happy I'm doing it right though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it varies for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Karate's a little different because karate you don't weigh in the morning of. Typically, it's always like the day before or a couple days before competition.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, you should really pace yourself when it comes to eating.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to eat too much from the very beginning and then make yourself sick.
Mm-hmm.
With karate, you have a couple hours or days to recover depending on the competition. But for wrestling, you have to compete almost right after weigh-ins. So that's more of a challenge in terms of what do you get into your body and how not to feel too heavy when you're wrestling.
I wonder why the wrestling is so much more weight oriented. And I understand now it's because you're body slamming people.
Yeah.
There's a lot more physicality when it comes to wrestling.
And everyone carries weight differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember I would weigh in and have to wrestle guys and my 120 would be a completely different 120 from a guy. Like I'll be like more scrawny and I'll have some arm strength, but when you see a 120 guy, they're just like very skinny, very small, but all
Lean.
bulk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah. One time I was asking this guy in the line. We're all in our singlets. My first time wearing a singlet, I was like, I thought I was like
I was like, oh my gosh.
I thought I was wearing a bikini.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird because it was like no
it's
protection.
weird too, yeah.
But once you're wrestling, you just forget what you're wearing. You know, you're just out there,
Yeah.
duking it out. It was dope. And this one guy was on the line, and I don't think they tested for what's the league? I always forget the league.
PSAL.
PSAL, yes, for the wrestling, the blended league. And I was like, how much is your body weight? And he was like 180. And I look at this dude, and he has forearms that look like calves, and he had traps. And I was like, there's no way. Yeah, I was like, there's no way he's not taking human growth hormone.
Oh my gosh.
I was looking at him, and I saw this similarity I see with some of the bodybuilders I watch. Like you can tell, like you could get the eye for it when you realize who's taking testosterone, who's not, and natural versus unnatural. And I was like, I see something very suspect with this kid.
Very suspect.
And he told me he was 180, and I was like, I've only seen that.
I bet you if you would have asked him his age, he would have been 13.
I know, right? That was scary to me because I was like, if I have to wrestle this dude, and he is just bulk. I mean, he was so lean. I could see all the striations. He's sitting still. It's not even like he was just moving around. Like the muscle was flexing.
Yeah.
But he was just standing still, and he was just ripped. And I was like, I've never seen someone like that before.
Yeah, I know. It's really intimidating when I have to like. It was at least when I had to go to like a tournament and I didn't know exactly who you're wrestling until like right before when they put the bracket up. And I would show up and try and like I would put on like such a face where I would like be really angry, Ronda Rousey style.
Yeah.
And some of the guys didn't even know I was a girl until I took off my hair cap because I had to like make myself bald for a second. And then one time I went to a tournament and I was like really mean. I was trying to be as serious as possible. And the guy I'm wrestling, he was so lean and he had so much muscle. And then he had to wear like a face cover because he had a beard.
Oh,
like he had a full on beard and facial hair.
Once, yeah.
And they wear the face cover. And bro, he looked like Darth Vader just with the and I was like, oh my gosh. And he ended up winning, but he didn't pin me. I went 3 rounds with him. Him probably dragging me around the whole time.
Those rounds are dreadful.
He was dragging me around the whole time, but he couldn't flip me.
There you go.
And that's what I really cared about. I was like, okay, you might win, whatever, but you're not turning me around. And I was like staying my ground. He was trying to slam me, and I was like, nope, not today.
That's a good feeling. Like when you're doing your best to stall. I mean, like you don't want to stall, but you're doing your best to prevent them from getting that move in.
Yeah.
You know, like
of course, I was trying to flip him, but he felt like a rock. But he was just, like dragging my face around. And I was like, nope, not turning over, not turning over.
For me, one of the hardest experiences I had is like me and this kid were in like, it was kind of like a stalling position. It was almost neutral. We were just holding each other, but I forget where I was positioned, but I was like, I was so uncomfortable, but I was just trying not to get flipped. He was just about to flip me over. And I forget what it was. I think I was on the floor. He took me down with a double leg.
Yeah.
And then I bellied out. And then he put his So what's the one where you go under their elbow and you try to flip their head
The
around?
half Nelson.
The half Nelson.
Yeah.
And he's turning me over, and I'm like, no.
No. And then you just do that weird crawl.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got out. I was like, oh, when you belly out and you get the points and you see the ref go like that.
No, 2.
2, yeah. And then everyone's like, 2.
2.
Yeah, exactly. That was like the best feeling. Just hearing everyone say 2 with you.
Yeah, because the same guy that I'm telling you about, he was trying to turn me to the half, and I kept just dragging myself. I kept thinking, become a Swiffer, because I just gliding on the mat, and then I was like so like flexible and twisty that whenever he would turn me, I would just flip, flip. You're not turning me.
That's dope. I mean, a lot of it is about form, and I realized this like in a bunch of sports. It's really more about form than trying to muscle out. And I was rock climbing with my friend, and he's pretty experienced now. He's getting a lot better. And for me, I can somewhat like hold up to what he does. I could keep up with him because I could try to muscle it. So like he'll do like these grabs where he's like using footwork, a lot of torso, and a lot of gravitational. He's manipulating gravity basically. Like the closer you are to the wall, the less likely you are to pull back and fall and put more strain on your forearms. So like, they say keep your hips in, keep your knees spread. That way you could be closer to the wall and you're not straining your arms. For me, I had my ass out. I'm hanging and I'm just using my pull-up strength and my strength that I've gained in the gym to do it. And then I realized that by the time I get to the top, I'm shot. I just turned off. All right, fuck that.
Okay.
All right, keep going. So like I realized by the time I got to the top, I was just shot, you know? And then I realized that like I couldn't keep up with him, and he was doing round after round on different trials, and I was like, I can't keep up. And then I realized it because I was not using technique, I was just trying to muscle it. And I found the same thing with wrestling.
Yeah.
I was just muscling it.
Yeah. There's like a science to how you move. If you like put your leg a certain way, you can get more strength. And
exactly, more leverage.
Yeah,
you could pin them without even what I was trying to do with the half Nelson, I would spin him over, and I was just trying to push as hard as I could. But I didn't realize if I went almost diagonally, that way if I spread my legs and I'm sprawling on top of him, I could spread my weight. What I was doing, I was exactly perpendicular to him.
Yeah. So yeah, strength is important, but when you know like how to dissect the technique and use it to your advantage, that's always going to take you a lot further.
It's pretty dope though. I mean, just like learning about these things over and over, and that's the part about like martial arts. I listen to a lot of guys on their podcast who do martial arts, and they talk about it. It's like routine. So once you get better at it, you start to learn how. It's almost like a reaction. Like you don't learn how to tie your shoes anymore. Yeah. You don't even think about it. You could talk to someone while tying your shoes. You're like, "What? What's going on?" And then next thing you know, you're just walking away because your shoes are already tied.
100% agree.
It's like wrestling. When someone does a move, you just have an instant reaction to that move because you see it coming. You can expect it. You have foresight. You know.
Yeah.
That's what I got into learning that, and then I stopped at that thing. But I realized like martial arts to me is pretty dope.
Yeah, I really enjoy learning about the specifics of hip movement and momentum, and just the idea of, like I said with the board, like you can always punch a board, but when you punch through the board, that's what's gonna cause it to break.
Exactly, yeah.
And you just gotta get over the fear, and you have to be honestly very open to learning different types of ways to do technique. And that's exactly what I've been learning for the past 14 years. At this point, I pretty much know most of the forms, but I can always improve on how I do them, because sometimes I'll learn to do something different that looks better, but also feels like it has more of an impact. So the learning never stops, honestly.
That's pretty good. I mean, like as you go on, you get the more experience. You learn how to do forms, stuff like that. How would you say you've taught form to other people, like through wrestling? Because I know like when you spar in karate and wrestling, when you have a partner to go back and forth with, you learn the form. Has it been easier to watch first? Because I feel like for me, it was always easier to watch it than just do it myself first.
Yeah,
I need to learn it visually. You know?
When I would help other people in wrestling practice, I would always be like, okay, like let's watch them do it, and then I'll show you. So I would usually say like watch first and then learn how to do it. But also it's important to learn how it feels for it to get done on you. So like if I'm teaching you how to double, I will double. I'll show you how to double, and I'll grab your legs to see how, like to show you how it feels to be taken down, so that you know exactly what you need to do. And if it doesn't feel right, then you're probably doing something wrong.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, like that was the best part to me. Just getting slammed over and over, because it was fun.
It was fun.
You know, you get to go back and forth. It reminds me of like wrestling on the couch with my cousins. Exactly. Like boom, the double leg takedowns. I remember Sotir, he did it was kind of like a suplex. What's the name for that? Where
which one? He does a lot of those
slams.
Yeah, that's his thing or whatever.
I like that. Part of me really gravitates towards that, because like it's not that it's just macho, but it's like
my thing was always the double. Or like I had this move that I really connected with. It's when you have your hands on their neck and you kind of just duck under one of their arms and grab their back and then take them down from the back. That was something that I really mastered, and that if you watch my videos, you could see me do it at least once every match. Yeah.
So do you keep recordings of like every fight to watch?
My dad always records me.
Do you watch it like film? Like, do you do this for karate as well?
Yeah. So usually almost every time I compete, it's always recorded. And then afterwards, like I'll try to watch it to see like what happened, what went wrong, what did I do.
Of course, yeah.
So a lot of my recordings are always they're always on video.
Have you ever watched film of your competition?
Like afterwards, like a match?
No, like before, like
Oh,
fighting this girl. Let's see what she does.
oh yeah,
Her tendencies.
yeah,
So you study the opponent?
yeah. It depends on the competition because most of the time you won't. I mean, you'll kind of know who's in your division. It depends on whether it's wrestling or karate. But if I know that this person's going to be there, I will probably look at their video. And I'm pretty sure people do it to me too, because I have a whole bunch of videos online, and I'm very aware that people are looking at me as much as I'm looking at them. Sometimes when I'm at competition and let's just say I got into semifinals and other people are also fighting to see who's gonna be the other person into semifinals, I pay a lot of attention to how that fight's going. So let's just say one person wins, I'll be like, okay, in that fight she did a lot of punches. Now I have to be ready to see, because she's gonna punch me, or she'll like to kick with her left leg out. So I try to keep those things in the back of my mind.
And I can imagine it also helps you regulate yourself in terms of like moves you're gonna do, because you want to be as versatile as possible. Because once you have like a go-to move that you do every single time, it becomes predictable. You know?
Yeah. You got to figure out, every fight is different. You got to figure out if you're the person who's on offense, if you're gonna play a more defensive role, if you're going to counter, or if you're gonna be the person to initiate. Every fight is different. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, I really enjoy that aspect of sports, just like understanding what your opponent does, trying to learn them, because it's kind of like almost the military.
Yeah.
In a way, you know, you have like a
strategy,
a battle strategy, you have a mission, and your goal is to understand how to work around it, you know, how to flank it in a way. So would you guys watch film as a team ever, or is it just like individually?
Everybody has a different opponent.
Like for volleyball, maybe.
Oh, for volleyball, yes. When I was in middle school, my coach was always recording our games, and then we would have some practices where we would just sit down and watch the video, and it would be boring, I'm not gonna lie, but my coach would be like, okay, this is the part where we need to like get closer together, because they will spike it there and you guys are weak when you're not protecting this area. And that would be so like beneficial for us. We did it in high school too. It wasn't as common in high school, I noticed, but our coach would always look at the video. Not like we would see every once in a while, but he would analyze the videos and then come back to us at practice and tell us, okay, in the last game you guys weren't protecting the outside hitter as much as you should be. So then we would work on drills for that. But yeah, I don't believe softball we ever recorded ourselves, because that's a little different. Softball and strategy, softball strategy varies for every team. But for volleyball, it's more of like, what can we do better on our side? And the coach would always record us.
How hard is it to learn all those formations? Because I know volleyball, you guys have like, are they called sets or?
There's 3 sets in a match, and we would have a whole bunch of different types of formations. Like,
yeah, what are the names?
So let me think. There's the basic 6 people, right? And you could do 6-2, which is when you have 6 people and 2 setters, one in the front, one in the back, and everyone has their own different position. You could stack, which is when everyone kind of goes towards the middle, and then once the ball is over, you run to a different position. So you don't necessarily need to stay in the spots that you're in. There's a whole bunch of different strategies that you can do, but it varies on where everyone's standing, and what type of position you are.
Got it. So if you're a setter, let's say you're the person that's serving, you don't have to stay in the back the entire rally.
No.
Right? You can move to the front immediately.
Yeah. I used to be setter, and what they would do is they would hide me behind one of the people in the front, and then when the match would start, when the rally would start, I would run to the front and resume my position from the net, which is what most teams do.
That's pretty good. I mean, because that way you're more versatile. Actually, wait, wouldn't it sounds a little more, would it be disabling, you think? Because like you're only playing one position? Or would they try to change your position, or like, every once in a while, I know you'd be a setter,
Yeah.
and you had the different color T-shirt, right?
No, so everyone has their own role.
Mm-hmm.
So you typically go into a team knowing that, okay, I'm going to be the setter, I'm going to be the outside hitter, I'm going to be the libero. What it was, I was the libero junior year, so that person's the one with the different shirt. So that person only plays the back row. So I knew that whole season that I wasn't going to be able to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it can get a little frustrating when you want to be in the front, but you can't.
Yeah.
But everyone has their own role and we're all working together. And you have to remind yourself that, okay, I'm just as needed in the back row. And this is what my job is. My job was whenever the other team would spike a ball, I would be that person like at the ground waiting to dig it out or sacrifice my body and throw myself.
Exactly, yeah.
So, the person with the different color shirt is just so that the referee can see who that person is, because they follow a weird rotation in terms of leaving the ring, the court.
I see.
And going back in.
How many liberos are on a team? More than one, right?
There's probably two.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen two liberos on the team. They take turns because when you're the only setter, the only libero, there's usually a lot of hitters. But when you're the only setter or libero, it can get like a lot
abusive to your arms. Right? Did it hurt? Because I know there's a certain form where it won't hurt your arms. Your forearms.
My forearms, usually in the beginning of the season, they always hurt, but then I get used to it. But what it hurts more is like your knees and your body, because you're sliding, you're throwing yourself.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I have a messed up knee. My knee's fine right now, but whenever I would do karate all year, and then volleyball, then wrestling, and then sliding and softball, that like with no stop, it could get a little tiring on your body.
I see. So like in practice, you're only practicing the libero. What you do, prepare for the game, right?
Yeah.
So how do you think that would change your approach in the next game or like the next season when your coach says, "All right, we want you to spike now, or we want you to set"?
That's what happened to me. JV, I was a setter. And then for varsity, I was a libero, and then I became a hitter by the time I was a senior. So every season is different. In practice, sometimes I would do a hit here and there because, it's fun. But mainly I would work on like the digging and the libero parts of the game. But by senior year, when I became a hitter, I worked on the different techniques, and it was kind of weird at first because I went from being the person who doesn't hit to only hitting. And it can be a weird transition, but it was still a lot of fun. And I'm grateful that I was able to do different positions.
Yeah. You change your skill set and you're actually like more leveled around.
Yeah.
I got you. So like I understand now, like you don't just want to do one position, you want to try everything, but at the same time you got to play your role and master that single position before you can move on. Would you say before you can move on to the next one, or when you're ready, or when you're interested in the next one?
I mean, every team is different. Every year people would change our teams, right? Because people would graduate, new people would come in. So once you assess the type of people that are on the team for that season, then you realize, okay, this person can take this role, this person can take that role. So it changes every year because of the type of people you're surrounded with. But yeah, that's why I changed from a libero to a hitter, because I was a senior now, I was taller, I was bigger, I had a little more experience, and there were other people who could also be equally as good in the libero position. So it's kind of like a ranking hierarchy kind of thing.
Would you ever want to coach, given your assets in so many sports and skills and just experience now?
Coaching, I mean, it depends on the sport. But
would you want to be like a senpai?
A senpai, I definitely like already volunteer in the dojo from time to time. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated with COVID now, but before COVID, when I was going, like I would try to help my senseis as much as possible. For like other sports like volleyball and stuff, I always like to give strategy on the inside, but I feel like the way to bridge all of those different sports is kind of just talking about an athlete and what an athlete has to go through and mentally prepare. And I feel like I would be more beneficial to someone if I just talk about the experience of competition, because I have a lot of different experiences when it comes to different sports, different events. So not necessarily like one sport I would be better at mentoring someone, but I just feel like talking to another athlete or competitor about my experience and any advice that I could give, that's something I would definitely like to do.
So in terms of time management, how have you seen yourself change with dealing with 4 sports in a season, being on student council, right? All these things, a lot of homework, AP classes.
Yeah.
How have you changed your approach in terms of like worrying about destiny instead of worrying about a sport for a minute?
I'm not gonna lie, like throughout high school, there were times where I was extremely stressed, and I did feel at some points like I bit off more than I could chew. But I feel like that's what made me more like stronger. Um, Time management wise, I learned to take every day differently. Like you can have a schedule, but it's gonna be complicated to stick to a schedule, especially when you have so many different things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So every day I would be like, okay, this is what's gonna happen, but just go with the flow. So I would have school, I would have practice, I would have karate, and that's all one day. Um, and it was extremely time consuming, but remembered the fact that I made commitments to all of these aspects of my life.
Yeah.
Like I can't just flake out now. School always was a big priority. The teams that I was on, I made a commitment to those teams, so I
Hmm.
didn't want to back out. And karate was always a big factor. It was one of the biggest. It is the biggest sport that I do. So I have a lot of time and commitment there. I just remembered that I need to hit all parts before I can say that I don't want to do it anymore, which I never did. I always made sure that I stuck to my word and pleased all parts
That's good.
of my routine.
That's just commitment. I like
Hmm.
that because it's really admirable when someone sticks around or you commit to something because once you start or once you begin a trend,
Yeah.
starting and finishing, it might carry on, but it works in the same
Yeah.
aspects of the opposite. You know,
Plus,
it's
I
like,
have a super competitive mentality, so I don't take quitting lightly. I
mhm,
hate quitting. So whenever I started something, I stuck with it to the very end, even if it caused me so much stress and
mhm,
anxiety and I was like tired. I still remembered like, okay, I started it and I don't like to finish things halfway. So we're gonna go all the way through.
good. So when would you see yourself not quitting, but putting something to rest and saying, you know what, it's not worth compensating for this anymore. You know, the
Hmm.
output is not what I expected, or um, I just don't see it as worth it because it's so detrimental.
That's I put the high school sports to rest when I graduated high school.
Okay.
Because right now I'm not doing any volleyball, wrestling, or softball. I would love to do like probably club sports when I get
Yeah.
to college, but it's never gonna be as intense, and that sucks to say because it's such a big part of my life. But I mean, it happens. You have to move on.
Hmm.
Karate, I'm still doing karate pretty intensely. Um, with karate, it's more of a lifestyle. It's more of a thing. I know people who have been doing karate their whole life. And there's a difference between competition and studying, practicing karate. You could do competition, but that's you're never going to do competition until you're like 60, 80. But I know 80-year-olds who are still practicing karate.
That's dope.
I remember I was I want to say 8. I was 8 years old and I was at the dojo and I was taking a class and there was this lady who was 98
What?
and
98?
she was also in the class and she was very her name was Elizabeth.
Hmm.
She was very sweet and she couldn't do all the moves that we were doing,
I
but
can
she did
imagine.
what she could.
Yeah, that's dope.
And she lived to I believe like 100 years old or
That's adorable.
102,
Wow.
and she's stuck with it. So for karate, it's more of a lifetime thing. Everyone moves on. Eventually, I'm gonna have to focus on my career because I do want to pursue something that's pretty hefty. That's gonna take a while. Um, it's just
Which you
more.
mentioned was
I want to pursue health science.
health science. Yeah.
I want to. That's my major right now, health science on a pre-med track.
Hmm.
So eventually, I want to enter healthcare and medicine and become a doctor. So that's going to take a while and it's going to be a big job. So eventually things are going to be put to rest. I can't tell you exactly when they're going to happen, but I'm at the point in my life where I'm starting to change from a child to an adult
Hmm.
and take things into my own hands. So we'll see how things go.
I think it's also good to maintain though, because like if you want to, if you
Hmm.
still love karate, who says you have to stop? You know, just
Yeah.
because you have a job, just because you have kids later on in life,
Hmm.
doesn't mean you have to put it to rest. You know.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who never stopped,
Hmm.
and they pursue their careers and their jobs, and they'll still make time to come to a
Hmm.
dojo. It doesn't have to be often, but that part of your life is always going to be there. Those people are your
Exactly.
family, so that's something that I don't plan on putting an end date on.
Hmm.
We'll just see how things flow throughout life. Who
Exactly. Yeah.
knows what's going to happen?
Roll with the punches. Yeah. If you have a new fathom like fandom, sorry, or something that you enjoy more, you might drift towards that. And I mean,
Hmm.
like a lot of people, we have this idea that like careers are just like you enter a career and that's like
That's it.
it's almost like retirement into a career. You know, it's
Yeah,
like you choose it
like
and you're
that's your
locked
life
in.
now.
Exactly. Like, but life is so random. Like you
Yeah,
never know
who
what's
knew we
gonna
were going
happen.
to be in a pandemic? Like,
Well, life is just the way I think about life is not even like lifespan. It's just like random, you know.
hmm
And it's like honestly, you should enjoy every day, like it is your
just be
last.
grateful that you're able to do what you're doing right
Exactly.
now.
Like the
Yeah.
odds of us being alive are like one in 400 quadrillion.
Yeah.
And then the odds of us being able to be like live in America and have these assets available, like you do karate, you can go to school, you can learn, you go to pre-med courses, right, and pursue a doctorate
Yeah.
degree, which is amazing, right?
Hmm.
You gotta also like take it one piece at a time.
One day
because,
at a time. Yeah.
exactly, because like we are very we're gifted in a way. Like, we have a lot to lose and a lot to gain, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like you gotta take it slowly.
Yeah. One thing I definitely learned this year was when I was in high school, I was so busy. I was constantly looking forward to the future and planning ahead and planning ahead. And that would cause me a lot of stress and anxiety because I had so many things to do.
Mhm.
But this year, when everything slowed down, I really had to think about I have to be grateful for what we have tomorrow.
Yep.
And not think too far ahead because life is going to change. Who knows what's going to happen?
Mhm.
You kind of just have to take it one day at a time and go at your own pace, you know. Don't stress yourself out too much. If you're not there yet, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Mhm.
That's
like
something
that.
I had to teach myself because I was spiraling, but now I'm good.
Yeah, patience is a virtue. I mean, nobody's born with it. You gotta earn it. You gotta learn it. It takes time, and unfortunately, we learn it in really hard ways sometimes. Like when we don't get what we want, or we want results to come faster, and we don't trust the process. I mean, happens to every single human being. You just
Mm.
want something so bad, but like you don't want to wait, and no one does because we all get impatient. Like especially nowadays, we have like this instant gratification where like we have our phones and we're trained to almost have anything instantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're just basically everything's at our fingertips. We want it. If we want it, we get it.
Yeah.
The best things in life isn't something that you get quickly. It's something that takes a shit ton of work. It's something that's really painful, But
Yeah.
eventually, once you earn it, it's not. I feel like something you really look forward to is never how you expect it to end. It's
Yeah.
like for me, I don't know what it's gonna be like to be a father. I can imagine it a certain way, and the day I become a father, it's gonna be a way different experience.
Yeah.
Or like the day I die, I might
Yeah.
imagine it as some weird day, but who knows? I might go peacefully.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'll be happy.
And
Believe.
some of the best things that happen in life are things that you can't plan for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like everything happens for a reason,
Mhm.
and you kind of just have to roll with the punches.
Mhm. It's kind of like just exploring the scenery as well, like learning like what's around you, and like I feel like the podcast itself, I've tried to plan certain things, like there's certain topics I definitely like to highlight about a certain being or person because everyone brings something different to the table.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like just being natural and just not concerning with an expected outcome, and instead just letting it take itself somewhere is
Yeah.
really beautiful.
It can lead to like bigger things that you didn't
Mhm.
even realize would happen.
Exactly, like life itself.
Yep.
Gorgeous.
We're so smart.
Exactly.
We're like
Profound beings.
we are intellectuals.
I know, but I'm also a dumbass.
Same.
I love it though. You get to be stupid sometimes, smart.
Yeah.
It's the backhand of wit.
Yeah.
A lot of smart people I feel like are dunces.
Yeah.
It's good though.
You have to be able to laugh at yourself
Of course.
and not take
yeah.
things too seriously.
The funniest jokes are the ones I make about myself.
Mhm.
Like especially in my head though. I don't tell them all. but-
No, we don't talk about our own humiliation.
Yeah. No, I feel like it definitely makes you more comfortable if you allow yourself to embarrass yourself. I feel like there's like a conflicting thing between every person.
Yeah.
It's like their inner self and their outward expression,
Mm-hmm.
But being willing to show that is really it's phenomenal,
Mhm.
Like you were saying before, like with the GSA at Metro,
Yeah.
Gay Straight Alliance,
Yeah.
right? And the Pride Day, like having or just making it like a physical or outward expression that we're just gonna give them this gesture to open up, but we're also gonna do it ourselves. I think it's a good reach. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're not only just bringing them in, but upon accepting them, you learn how you could have them accept you.
Yeah. That was one of the days where everyone was able to be completely themselves. Everyone didn't feel scared to express their own individual personality,
Mhm.
and I'm really grateful that we are in a community where everyone can do that freely.
Yeah.
And that's something that we didn't want to take for granted, which is why we emphasized those types of activities.
Mhm.
Yep.
I mean, just looking at your life, or I would say career so far, but like just Destiny, you've gone this far, right? Destiny's span of 18 years, done a lot.
Yeah, I have done a lot. It's crazy.
It's good to pack the book or like with more pages. You want to add as much as you can.
Yeah, for college applications, I had so
Mhm.
much to write about. But at the same time, I was like, damn, I can't believe I finished all this, and I still have so much I want to do.
It's a byproduct of hard work and just sticking to it. I
Mhm.
think it's something you definitely bring to the table that I admire. It's like committing to something and following through, and also doing it with a certain type of I was gonna say pizzazz, but I would say just like structure and composure.
Yeah,
Being well built all around.
try.
That's good.
Yeah.
It comes in the household first, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming along. Is there
Thank you.
any handles you want to tell the people that
Yeah.
find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Destiny Vergara with 2 Y. So it's DESTINYYVERGARA. You can Google my name. All of my information is there. And yeah, if you have any questions or if you want to just become friends, you could totally DM me. And yeah, that'll be fun.
Amen. Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada boom.
Thank you for coming along. This is
Thank
great.
you.